If you had to pick one single year in all of human history to not have been born, most people would think of a world war or a recent pandemic. But historians have a different answer, and it's a year almost nobody knows about. 536 AD. It started with the sky. At some point that year, a dark fog covered Europe, the Middle East, and parts of Asia for 18 months straight. This wasn't a normal cloud. The sun was only visible for a few hours a day, and when it did appear, it gave off a weak, bluish light with almost no heat. A Byzantine historian at the time wrote that the sun shone without brightness, like the moon, for nearly an entire year. Nobody at the time knew the cause. Today, thanks to ice core samples from Greenland and Antarctica, we know it was a massive volcanic eruption, most likely in Iceland, that threw so much ash into the atmosphere it blocked sunlight across half the planet. Global temperature dropped instantly. In the middle of summer, some regions of Europe saw snow. And that's where the real nightmare begins. Without sunlight, wheat and barley harvests failed completely, 2 years in a row. Famine followed, and right when the population was at its weakest, something else arrived: the bubonic plague, later known as the Plague of Justinian. It swept through the Byzantine Empire and killed an estimated 25 million people, at a time when the entire world's population was a fraction of what it is today. Tree rings from that period, found all over the world, show almost no growth for an entire decade. Crops failed. Economies collapsed. Entire regions of China reported summer snowfall the same year. This wasn't a local disaster. It was a planet-wide chain reaction, and almost nobody alive today has ever heard of it. Historian Michael McCormick, who specializes in this period, called 536 AD the beginning of one of the worst periods to be alive in the history of humanity. Not because of a single event, but because of what came after. Darkness, famine, plague, and nearly a decade of recovery that never fully happened before the next disaster hit. We tend to think the worst years in history are the ones we were taught about in school. But the one year that scientists now consider the true beginning of hell on Earth barely gets a mention. Sometimes, the worst disasters aren't the loud ones. They're the quiet, grey, 18-month-long ones nobody saw coming.